Hi, welcome to Red Hawk Spotlight. I'm Deanna Roma. Today we're joined by Rhiannon Brown, women's lacrosse player. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So as you're entering your third year on the team, the NJAC preseason coaches poll chose you to finish third on the conference this year. What are your expectations coming into the season?
I think our expectations are that we want to come out as strong and as hard as we can this year. We're really looking forward to getting to that NJAC championship this year in May. On our locker room whiteboard, we have play in May starts today, and everybody looks at that every day and is like, all right, that's our reminder, that's what we're going for.
So last year the team finished 10-8 in the season where you sustained a season-ending injury. This wasn't your average problem that an athlete goes through. Can you explain more in depth what happened to you?
Yeah, so in February of 2019, I was diagnosed with a pulmonary embolism. That is a blood clot in your lungs. The reason that happened was due to my birth control pill that I was taking at the time. I didn't realize this was what had been going on for about a few weeks now. I had been out of breath in practice. I was tired walking from Machuga to Blanton, which is a very short walk, but I was out of breath by the time I got up the hill. So finally one day what happened is I was in the trainers and I had this really sharp pain in my shoulder, and it felt like a knot, but turns out it wasn't a knot. So my athletic trainer, Rob, he ended up sending me to an urgent care in Paramus, and from there, I had to go to Valley Hospital in Ridgewood. And after about 5 hours of blood work, an x-ray, a CAT scan, an ultrasound, and more blood work, they came back and were like, you have a blood clot. And I was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah. But my doctor the next morning was like, yeah, this is probably from your birth control because you're in shape, you're an athlete, you're a college athlete. That's the only thing that makes sense.
So what other symptoms led you to go to the doctor? Was it just the breathing and not being able to breathe during practice and then walking back to your dorm and stuff?
Yeah, the breathing was the huge thing that I noticed because I felt really weak. And so when I was in the urgent care, I started to sweat a lot, profusely sweat. And all of a sudden I got this really sharp pain in my side, from what had gone from my shoulder went down to my side, and every time I inhaled and exhaled, it felt like my lungs were collapsing on me.
Can you take me through the process of getting healthy again and getting back on the field after you found out about your diagnosis?
After you have a blood clot, you have to go on blood thinners because when you have a blood clot, you can't treat the clot itself. They break up throughout your veins, and once you have that, you're automatically more susceptible to another clot forming. So they put you on blood thinners to prevent that risk. So I had to take blood thinners for 3 months. And this happened in February, in the beginning of our season, so that meant I was out for the season because when you're taking blood thinners, you bruise like a peach. And there's a severe risk of internal bleeding when you're playing contact sports. My doctor was like, yeah, no, you're done. So it was a long and tough process, and once I got out of the hospital, I had to stay home for a week because I was still having constant pain throughout my body. But once I got back, my teammates and my family and my friends, everyone was so supportive of me. So that's really what got me through because even though it took a physical toll on me, it also took an emotional toll on me.
Yeah, so can you tell me more about that too? So obviously it was physically hard, but mentally it had to be tough too. So how'd you stay focused when you couldn't get onto the field and you couldn't physically practice and do anything physical?
Yeah, so there were 3 of my teammates in particular really helped me through this. Their names are Tristan, Kate, and Morgan, and all 4 of us were out for the season due to not typical injuries or ailments for lacrosse players. All 4 of us had to stand on the sideline and watch our teammates play the sport that we love, knowing that there was no chance we were going to get out. So what we would do is we would try to pass the ball with each other or just hang out on the sideline, work out as much as we could, and we were allowed to. But those 3, and along with the rest of my team and my friends and my family, all helped me get back to where I am today. And it really comes down to keeping your head up. There were days where I was like, why am I even still here? This is the sport that I love and I can't go and do it. But I'm sitting here watching all my friends do it. But it really came down to keeping a positive attitude and keeping my head up because I know I would get to where I am today.
So did you develop a bond with any of the other injured players last season?
Yeah, the 4 of us definitely got a lot closer, and I can tell you right now those 3 are my best friends here because all of us were going through a very hard time, and all of us were going through different rehab exercises or whatever it was we had to do. So we all kind of had each other's backs in a way that other people didn't because we knew that the 4 of us were hurting on the inside, but no one could see that on the outside.
Yeah, and it affected you from a sports standpoint, but I know you snowboard and do other stuff aside from lacrosse. So how did it affect your life during like snowboarding season and stuff like that?
So thankfully, snowboarding wasn't actually directly affected by this because it happened after I had stopped snowboarding for the season, because once lacrosse starts, I stopped snowboarding. But what I did end up spraining my ankle while I was taking the blood thinners, and when you sprain your ankle and you're on blood thinners, it blows up a lot because you bleed a lot more. So that took double the amount of time to heal than it normally would from a person who would sprain their ankle without taking blood thinners. So that led into the summer. Usually during the summer, I'm doing other types of training like speed, conditioning, lifting, other lacrosse drills that I do at home, and it prevented me from doing that for about another 2 months because I was still rehabbing my ankle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's hard too. So then after missing an entire season, this year you started off on a strong foot, already winning NJAC Player of the Week after week 1, and you have the team lead in 9 goals and 5 assists in your first 3 games of the season. Did you expect to hit the ground running with such like a strong force?
I mean, I came out this season and I was like, I just want to play. I'm happy to be back here. I know I worked really hard to get where I am today, and there were days, like I said before, I didn't think that I'd be here. But the recognition is awesome from NJAC, but like all I'm happy about is that I'm playing again and I'm back on the field with my teammates.
Yeah, because it's probably crazy because you couldn't play for so long and then getting back on the field.
It was like I'd seen other players go out for different injuries, like ACLs and stuff like that. That's always a year-long recovery, but I was never able to wrap my head around the idea that I might be that person one day.
Your coach, Nicole Parcelu, is the all-time winning coach in the program history. What makes her such a good coach to you and your team?
I think the biggest thing that coach does is she motivates us all a lot. She always wants us to do our best that we can. She's constantly like, work harder. But she always tries to get us to keep our heads up too. Like, we don't try to get too down on ourselves even when we have hard days. Like, if you just take a step back and look at everything, it's like, all right, here's what we did right. Here's what we can fix. Let's move on from here.
Then what is your relationship like specifically between you and her?
I think we have like a cool relationship. Like, we're able to like joke around in practice or whatever about whatever it is. But then she'll also be able to like pull me aside and be like, oh, Rhi, like that was a good cut here, but make sure you look for the back doors instead. She's very like, she'll be able to pull me aside and be like one-on-one, but also address the whole team too.
Mm-hmm. And so from what I know, you're very involved with youth girls lacrosse in the community in your hometown, Ramsey, New Jersey. Can you tell me more about that and what you do with the teams?
Yeah, so I'm from Ramsey, New Jersey. It's in Bergen County. It's a half hour from here. Growing up, I didn't originally play lacrosse, actually till 7th grade. I was playing soccer and softball for a while. And my sophomore year of high school was the first year we had a varsity team for lacrosse. So me and my class were the oldest girls on the team, so we kind of had to build a program from scratch. And for me, I wanted other girls to be able to play and love a sport as much as I do. So that's really important for me to be able to go back and help those girls, from either working on clinics. On Sundays, we hold them at the high school in the spring on the front lawn. Usually it's like kindergarten, first graders, and second graders. We just do little drills with them just to introduce. Yeah. Okay. So the clinics are young, and then when I can, I go back during the week to help coach the youth game. So there's a 3rd and 4th grade team, a 5th and 6th grade team, and a 7th and 8th grade girls rec team. And so I try to go back and help out and coach with them as much as I can.
And what is it like coaching the youth and kids that are just beginning to learn lacrosse and sports in general?
It's a really cool feeling, because it's like I want to be a teacher one day, so being able to see these kids develop their skills and get better is like one of the most heartwarming things ever. And especially from my town, it's my hometown, so it's like I went through this program. I want other girls to be able to go through this program and like the sport as much as I do.
So then what's it like being back at your high school where you spent your high school career captained on the varsity team?
It's definitely a weird feeling when I walk back on my high school field and I'm not the one who's dressing to play. But it's also a really cool feeling because I can see myself in some of the girls that I'm coaching, and they get just excited as I used to get excited for games.
So the lacrosse team took part in Women and Girls Sports Day here at Montclair State, hosting about 50 girls ages 6 to 12, and you guys taught them lacrosse and other sports. What was that experience like? Because you're at Montclair, coming from your high school and then now doing that over here at Montclair.
Yeah, so that's it's definitely different than going home, because when I go home, I know most of the girls because my town is kind of small, so we all kind of know each other, and I've been coaching the same group of girls for a while. But coming here, it was really cool to see a whole fresh group of girls that I had never met before and be able to still teach them the same skills and still see the same reactions and like light in their eyes when they figured out how to catch the ball or how to throw it.
Did you play any other sports in high school?
Yeah, so I played soccer all 4 years in high school. I actually played soccer longer than I played lacrosse because I started playing around like first or second grade, and I played all the way up through high school. Soccer was a really cool experience because I played with the same group of girls growing up, and they were some of my best friends, so it was cool to see us grow up and walk out on our senior night all together because we'd been playing together for so long.
Did you always know that you were going to end up playing lacrosse as a college athlete?
For a small time, I thought about playing soccer or softball, but then I started playing lacrosse, and I was like, oh, I really like this. And then I joined the travel team, and from travel, they started with the recruiting process, and here I am today.
So Rowan is an NJAC rival here at Montclair, and the team lost the last 4 meetings, 2 in the regular season and 2 in the NJAC semifinals. You won't play them again until April 25th, so it's the last game of the season. Is that the game like you guys mark off on the calendar? And like, what do you guys do to get like you guys pumped up to win?
Yeah, that's definitely a game that's marked on my calendar right now. Personally, I've never beaten Rowan in my freshman year or last year.
So you want to go in?
I want to beat Rowan. And if we beat Rowan, that's huge for going towards the playoffs. We lost to Rowan in overtime last year, and being on the sideline watching that game was like, oh my God, that was like one of the worst feelings ever.
Really?
Yeah. And that just like, I go back and think about that game sometimes, and I'm like, I don't want to be losing in overtime again. I don't want to be in that spot.
Yeah, so then like, how do you and your teammates, like what's the atmosphere like with your teammates going into a game like that, like after losing? And then is there something specific that you guys all do together?
We all like try to hype each other up. What we've been doing lately is bringing a big speaker into the locker room, whether it's a home or away game. We just blast music, we dance in the locker room, we hype each other up. We write all over the whiteboard. Each person like has their own little like superstitions or rituals that they do before games. Like we all try to like get each other focused and in the zone.
What are like some superstitions or rituals that you partake in?
Personally, I have an apple before every game. I've been that way since my freshman year of high school. Before any game, soccer or lacrosse, I always have an apple. I also write on my wrist with a Sharpie, I write 4 sets of initials. So the first 3 are smaller, and they are Tristan, Morgan, and Kate's initials. And then I write HTR, and HTR stands for hold the rope. We did like a team bonding exercise my freshman year on our spring break, because we had a huge game the next day against St. John Fisher, who was a ranked team at the time. And the hold the rope exercise basically showed us how we have to have each other's backs on and off the field. Wow. And we ended up beating St. John Fisher 12-11, so hold the rope just kind of stuck with me.
So the women and men's lacrosse games are pretty different when it comes to physicality. Would you ever want the women's game to go the route that the men's team goes?
Personally, no. I like women's lacrosse better than men's lacrosse. Not that I don't like men's lacrosse. I think men's lacrosse is awesome to watch, but I like women's lacrosse better because I like playing it better. And I think that if we were to get more physical, I mean, women's lacrosse can get physical sometimes, even though it's not technically supposed to happen, it can get physical. But I think if the rules were changed a little bit to allow more hits and contact, it would kind of take away from the game that we already have.
Yeah. And then what would you say the best part of the women's lacrosse program is overall?
Probably the best part of our program is that I've personally met my best friends ever on this team, and people that like lacrosse just as much as me. Like growing up, lacrosse wasn't huge in my town yet, so I was kind of like one of the few people that was like really into it, like watching the D1 games every day, like they were on, like going out after practice to hit the wall or something like that. Like it was still becoming a new thing, but then I got here and I met so many people that were just like me. And it's nice. It's awesome.
Well, thanks for joining us today. That's all we have for Red Hawk Spotlight. I'm Deanna Roma.